Hey guys, what's going on? So today we're talking about Velkazar. This is the second boss in Guild Conquest after you kill Tire Fast. Tire goes fast. That's probably not how it's whatever. The competition is a lot more stiff this week. We're facing off against Nocturne here. Currently we are in the lead, but that can change at any moment. And so I did my 2 runs against Velkazar today with 2 other members. I highly recommend going at least with 1 other player. The 3rd member, although I'm not actually too sure if that's that good, because ultimately you can only have 7 heroes here, but when you have 2 members you can have 6. So essentially, while you do have a larger roster to choose from, like say you really need an Unnet or something, and neither of you 2 guys have an Unnet, you could bring a 3rd guy in and he can use his Unnet. But that guy uses his ticket where he could potentially get more damage going in another 2-man team with 6 characters. That's just a little side note there, and I could be completely wrong. Maybe the DPS just completely skyrockets if you have all 3 members for any reason that I'm not aware of. But just logically speaking, it seems to make more sense since all 3 of you will use a ticket to go in 2-man teams, but who knows? I've always been going in 3-man teams myself, and the one time I did go in a 2-man team was the very first Guild Conquest, and we did do much less, but I think just things went downhill too fast, and that may have been coincidence. Regardless, first of all, let's check out his skills. Most of these are pretty normal skills. There's only one super dangerous one you need to watch out for, but we're gonna go through them anyway. So we have Sword of Punishment here. So his Sword of Punishment is just a normal attack pretty much. It will lift some fireballs up into the air, and you'll get stunned for 4 seconds while reducing your heal rate for 10 seconds. So looking at Scorching Heat, this is basically a long duration knockback. You definitely want to have a cleanser in your team, like either a Net or Refi, etc., so you can stand back up immediately and not actually be laying down for 6 seconds. The Roar of the Executioner, again, I don't think I noticed this one too much. It looks like another knockback, but it doesn't say how long that lasts for. I don't think you need to be too worried about this skill in general. Hellfire is just kind of damage over time. I've only noticed he does this when he does the Executioner's Casket, which we'll get to in a second. Flash of Inferno, just immune to attack speed effects, so Claus's second skill isn't going to do much to him. And every time he takes 400 damage, he'll kind of do his first skill where he summons those fireballs and inflicts stun and damage. And his other passive here correlates to his second skill. So there's a zone in the back called the Zone of Inferno, and that deals a lot of damage over time as well as decreasing your defense. And his second skill states here he'll knock you into that Zone of Inferno, and you'll stay there for 6 seconds if you don't have a cleanser. So again, it's important to cleanse that. It does say the effect cannot be resisted, but that doesn't mean it can't be dispelled. He obviously doesn't use skills super fast because it does take him quite a while just to summon the first pillars, but apparently after every 3rd skill he uses, he'll summon the caskets. They last for 20 seconds and they cast Hellfire. If we go back up, we can see Hellfire is this damage over time, and if you don't have enough healing going on, then someone could very well die. It says the Executioner's Casket deals permanent damage to nearby enemies, but I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be constant, not permanent. Because if it's permanent, that means you couldn't heal at all. It does say it reduces their heal rate, but not completely stops it. Hit enemies take increased damage. Velkazar takes 90% of damage instead of the caskets, so you really need a lot of damage going on there to destroy them. And every time the caskets are summoned, their HP increases, making them harder to kill. But if it's destroyed while activated, Velkazar takes great damage and falls into a vulnerable state for a period of time, which is kind of like when you CC down the world boss. He'll be down for a while and take extra damage. So now that we kind of got an idea about what Velkazar is doing, let's talk about team comps. So it's been recommended over and over that Ricardo will be your tank. This is who I took with me, which you'll see in a second. I did record my 2 runs today, and I'll be playing them a little bit later, kind of going through my thoughts and stuff. Neither of them were perfect at all, but the second one was quite a bit better than the first one. These are my first 2 runs ever on this guy, so, you know, don't be too harsh. There definitely were some mistakes. Regardless, that's beside the point. So Ricardo should be your tank pretty much. I think he is the only tank that's really necessary. Of course, Mora would be another good option, but she is unfortunately banned here. So yeah, Ricardo, best in slot tank. If no one in your team has a Ricardo, I'm not too sure what the next best would be. Just check your tanks and see if any of them protect against magical damage, because this is what this boss is doing. Ricardo has some nice passive magic damage protection. With that being said, Lice is also a good healer here because of the same reason. Ricardo is a good tank, the passive magic damage protection, and also, you know, she's a pretty good healer as well. And with the recent mana nerf, her mana battery capabilities, when you have Inner Peace mixed with the T5 Dark, is quite good as well. As for DPS, Nyx may be the single best one here. As you'll see in the video upcoming, he was getting up to around 90 million DPS when the minions or the pillars came to be. Important to have AoE heroes like Nyx in there so you can destroy those caskets. And again, he is probably one of the best ones. I've heard Miruru can also be quite good with her AoE damage in there as well, but we didn't happen to have her. As you'll see in the video, we also did take Crow, but if we had a better replacement, I probably wouldn't go with Crow again. He was doing decent damage, but if we were to have another support in there that would allow us to survive the entire 5 minutes, it would have been a lot more overall damage. So pretty much what I've seen thrown around is a tank like Ricardo, a DPS like Nyx, and 4 healers and a net. That's pretty much it, because you need a lot of healing to keep up with that flame breath once the pillars are up, from what I've noticed. Recommended healers I've seen are again Lias, Shea or Shay, Refi for the cleanse, and Annette for her heal over time as well as other support abilities. So again, you could have a 4th healer like Kaula or Mediana, or you could go for another DPS like Miruru. It really just comes down to how strong your main DPS is, I guess. So with a 3-star level 90 Nyx, it's still in T7 gear. I'm not sure if he would have been enough to take care of the towers on his own, but if you have like a 5-star unique weapon with T8 gear and such, most likely just the Nyx would be enough. So personally, I would recommend 1 tank, 2 DPS, 3 healers, and a net, just generally speaking. Again though, if you have a super op DPS, you may get away with taking 4 healers and a net. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the general overview of the boss and my troop recommendations and what I've heard from other people. And now we can take a look at the run I did earlier today against Velkazar. The first one I did full auto while just taking care of Crow and making sure he does his 3rd skill when the pillars come out. But then Ricardo was doing his S2 and Ricardo died way too prematurely, so that run didn't go so well. This time I'm doing full manual, just avoiding Ricardo's S2 altogether because he's too fragile to take all that magic damage. And you'll see here come the pillars here. It looks to be 5 of them, and you can just see Nyx's damage totally skyrocket here. One cool thing about Nyx that I didn't really realize until like halfway through the run is when you have his S1 light perk, you can actually spam his first skill over and over, doing a lot more extra damage. So yeah, we're going to take a look at the 2nd pillar now. You can see he's just doing this fire breath stuff, giving us AoE damage all the time, and everyone's just taking constant damage. And the later on you get into the battle, the more damage that'll be, the harder the pillars will be to kill, etc, etc. So you got to be stronger and stronger the further you want to get into it, obviously. And there he pushed us back into the Inferno zone or whatever it's called, and now we have the pillars back again. And now you can see they're taking tons of damage. They're almost all dying all the time. But it's kind of funny because now you can see I figured out that I can spam Nyx's S1. At least I could a few times in a row there. Crow is getting very close to dying. I saw him with like 1 HP there. But the pillars went down and it's mostly okay again. It's really when the pillars are there, when he's doing his fire breath, that's the most dangerous part, and that's what you need to really optimize your team for. Everything else can mostly be survived reasonably well. So here comes the pillars. I think this is the last time, and you can see there's his fire breath just completely melting everyone there. We do already have 2 dead heroes, Mediana and Annette, and now of course Crow and Nyx. And yeah, that was pretty much the full run. I wouldn't say it was too horrible, but definitely far from perfect as well. But that's pretty much the general gist of it from my experience and from what I've heard from other people, so take that as you will. So I know I did give some very specific hero recommendations, and you might be watching this and being like, well, I don't have those heroes, so this is kind of pointless. And I get that, but basically you kind of have to just think, what's the boss doing and what do I need to take care of? Again, the pillars, in my experience, are the most dangerous, so you need to find a way not only to survive them, but to kill them. AoE healers, AoE DPS. Basically, that's it. But of course, if you do have any questions regarding this boss, you can drop them down in the comments below, and either myself or someone more experienced from the community can give you their feedback on what they think is best or what they think works better than anything I'm suggesting here, etc. So just drop that down there. Also, leaving a like if you did happen to enjoy is always greatly appreciated. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.